Welcome to episode 581 of the Barcelona podcast, brought to you by the Blue Wire Podcast Network. I'm Dan Hilton, and apologies if your nerves didn't even recover after PSG. Mine did not, and I felt like going into this El Clásico, things did feel a bit lackluster because of it. Yet, here we sit at the end of it somehow, and it's heartbreaking again. I didn't even have the nerves to feel as frustrated as I found myself at the conclusion of this one. A lot of credit to you for watching this. I do really appreciate it. Win or lose, as I said against PSG, I always appreciate the Patreons, including the new ones, for making this possible. And you can keep supporting for free by leaving a like and subscribing to the YouTube channel and by following along on the podcast apps. All right, because you know I do every match review, regardless of the result, here we go. The 5 headlines from Barcelona's 3-2 loss to Real Madrid in El Clásico. Headline 1 is Lunin takes his lump. Lunin had a nervy start, and it was a bit unfortunate that Barcelona couldn't capitalize, because if Rafinha does score that early opportunity that Lunin almost bottled there, this game really gets thrown on its head. But I kind of contradict myself immediately, because it was a 6th minute when Barcelona did take, we'll say, quote-unquote control by going up 1-0 in the game. Good pressure, though, I have to say, at the Bernabeu from Barca, starting 2 teenagers in their first El Clásico ever in Cubarsi and Lamine Yamal. Barcelona getting a few corners early. So Rafinha delivering the in-swinger. This is really poor from the goalkeeper, not to take anything away from Christensen, but really poor from Lunin. Gets it all wrong, and Christensen at the back post easily outjumps Cruz. Christensen's second goal of the season, by the way, the 3-2 against PSG being the other one. And I got to thinking, at least at that point in the game, not just because he scored the goal, but yeah, could Barcelona have not gotten a red against PSG? What's the what if Christensen doesn't pick up that yellow against PSG in the first leg and gets suspended, and Barcelona actually able to start against PSG, up that goal on aggregate with that defensive midfielder? But that's just me hoping and dreaming that the paths were a little bit different, especially after a second heartbreaking loss in the same week. Headline 2 is Cancelo and Cubarsi concede. Real Madrid did respond to the goal with some energy. Vinny Jr. probably should have scored off Modric's flick-on header, but it was too high. And for a player that, if I had checked, started less than half of the games in the Liga this season in Modric and might be done with his time at Barcelona, he is a player that I do respect. That is true. Unlike some Real Madrid players throughout the years who I really, really hated, Modric, I always wish I could have just been a neutral watching him, because really a good class player who seemed to raise his game against Barcelona each and every year as well. The only thing that he ever took from me was, I feel like, the 2018 Ballon d'Or. That was more of a participation trophy for being on Real Madrid in the season they had, and Croatia getting to the final of the World Cup in 2018. But that's in the past, because in the present, his team were starting to take control of this game. Barcelona were starting to cede possession, and that is the trade-off with Pedri not playing from the jump, instead Christensen coming in his stead. Christensen isn't going to control that game with the ball at his feet. That's also not who De Jong is, and Gundogan is better farther forward. That's why you start Christensen, so you can have Gundogan up with the minimal, doing some dangerous things, which we'll talk about in a second. But before that, we have to talk about the negative, which was the 1-1, 17th minute. Cubarsi leaves his right foot out, and Lucas Vázquez goes down after blowing past Cancelo. Cancelo, another huge mistake, and that is not the last time I'm going to be saying that in this match review. Just outside the box prior to Lucas Vázquez getting inside the box, Vinny Jr. then scores the penalty, even though ter Stegen guessed right, unfortunately, but the penalty was too good. This is sloppy from Cancelo, and it's a bit naive from Cubarsi, but I, as a Kool-Aid, tell you that, hey, if you're a Madridista listening or watching this, yeah, congratulations to you. But for the Kool-Aids, Cubarsi had his hands behind his back, and he did keep the leg out. That is why they called a penalty. But you know what? Vázquez did initiate the contact with his right leg, and the ball was not very close to him. Unfortunately for Barcelona, this is never going to be overturned, but there is an argument both ways. This is one of those where if we want to have discussion about the referee's initial decision, we can, but I think the reason VAR doesn't overturn this is because there is enough contact between Cubarsi's leg that he left out and Vázquez that it doesn't get overturned. But I also think that because you can argue Vázquez had initiated the contact, if that's what the ref originally had called, no penalty, I don't think this one gets overturned the other way and is a penalty. I think this one goes in the books as whatever the first call was, and that is unfortunate for Barcelona. 24th minute, Barca finally settled down for a passage of play. Well done by Araujo to play Cancelo on, who flicked on to Rafinha, who won the corner. And on the corner, Lewandowski just too high on the header. This moment, just like in the 20th minute against PSG early in the week, it's going to get forgotten with all the other big headlines and big moments, but if Lewandowski puts that one in the back of the net, Barcelona up 2-1, and maybe this game is different. Headline 3 is at the center of it all. Lewandowski, not sure I'm going to really mention him much throughout the rest of this match review because the rest of it was about the guy who was actually named the man of the match in Lamine Yamal. 28th minute, another corner. Lamine Yamal flicked it on and Lunin tried to keep it out. But did this one go over the line? Did the whole of the ball, that's the rule, did the whole of the ball go over the line? VAR took a look. I couldn't tell. I didn't see a single angle that showed it clearly. And here's my question. If it was ruled a goal, would the goal have stood? Was it only not overturned because it wasn't clear and obvious enough to overturn it? That would be the argument for Barcelona, again, being hard done by. Unless you want to throw an angle at me that does show that it was fully over the line. I didn't see one, and maybe it'll get released in the next 24 hours, or maybe it's already on, or maybe it's out on the internet and you already have it with me. So things could be different, but this is another frustrating one because if the referee, I think, had initially called it one way, then VAR doesn't overturn it the opposite way. But because the referee had initially said that it was not over the line fully and did not call for the goal, VAR did not have enough to overturn it. Then a minute later, Lamine Yamal probably went down a bit too easily against Camavinga, but just as easily as Lucas Vazquez had gone down on the other side. Camavinga doesn't get the ball, but it's not enough contact to rightly bring Lamine Yamal down for me. Maybe slightly less contact than Vazquez and Cubarsi, but again, frustrating for Barcelona because just so close. And if a little bit of luck had gone their way, and by luck I mean the referee, then this game is different in the first half. Then 2 minutes later, Camavinga picked up a yellow because Gundogan played Lamine Yamal through and he brought him down just outside the box. Was he fortunate that Tchouaméni had gotten in position? By that I mean, was Tchouaméni in position or should this have been a red? Because Lamine Yamal was in on goal. Rafinha too high on the following free kick, but I'm still left with more questions. I did work in sports talk radio for a little bit, which is a bit too hot takey for me, as those who are with me all the time know. But one of the lessons I did learn from, I'll call them some of those blowhards who've been in sports talk radio for 10, 20, 30 years, 40 even, I learned that if you're just asking the questions, it can still rile everybody up, and that's what I'm doing. I'm asking the questions. What I do know is that I wouldn't want to have been the referee in this instance because there were just too many opportunities for Barcelona to get a little bit of luck, and they didn't get any of it. So just as a Kool-Aid myself, I feel hard done by the amount of times that luck did not go Barcelona's way today, even if you're a Madridista in my comments who believe that everything was called the right way. 38th minute, Barcelona took their time and broke through the Real Madrid press, leading to a cross from Cancelo. The Lunin did well to punch away from Lewandowski, though it did lead to another corner that bounced right across the 6-yard box. Again, more luck not going Barca's way, that there was nobody there at the back post. 45th minute, Modric deserved a yellow card on a cynical pull down of Rafinha, but the ref doesn't pull the card. Everything going against Barcelona, luck-wise, in the first half. Of all the other things I've said so far that gave the referee and VAR an excuse, no excuse here. Ref has to give a yellow. This is a cynical pull down. I don't care that you don't want to give out yellows or don't want this game to bubble over. Both teams were playing exhausted from the Champions League stuff, and this game didn't really reach any kind of fever pitch, and it hadn't in that first half either. This is a yellow on Modric. And then right before halftime, Christensen lost the ball, but slid back in to make the tackle with Vinny Jr. when he failed to shoot, passed it over to Rodrigo. Barcelona, a little bit of luck there defensively, but showing the cracks, unfortunately. Then De Jong, a really strong tackle by Valverde, who did get the ball, but getting De Jong's ankle on the follow-through. I said initially, how is that not a yellow? But yes, on second look, he just put everything through the ball and just really unlucky for De Jong to have gone in the way he did and stretchered off. At this point, I don't know what his status is, but still just really unfortunate. And as I said, to sum it all up, none of that 50-50 stuff going Barca's way. The right leg of Vazquez on Cubarsi was the ball over the line, Modric getting a yellow, as in not getting a yellow on Rafinha, and then Valverde just catching De Jong's ankle straight through, and now Barcelona have lost De Jong. 2 of the 4 are probably right, but instead it's 0 for 4. But I was still hopeful because in that first half Lamine Yamal showed against Camavinga, it did feel a bit like a matter of time that if Lamine Yamal could keep going 1v1 against Camavinga, something good was going to happen. Headline 4, Fermin Lopez, right place, right time. Pedri coming on for De Jong right before halftime, and Fermin Lopez then coming on for Christensen at halftime. And the changes did seem to support Barcelona. They did, I think, in the second half begin with a bit of energy and doing a good job on Vinny Jr. too. Didn't bring his A game on the night, and that was helpful to Barcelona, even though he scored the penalty. 58th minute, jump ahead there. Fermin Lopez was accused of going down too easily with Rudiger, and I do disagree that he went down too easily. But I also think that Rudiger is just a big man and held his ground, and this is not a penalty. which I take nuanced stances, and that's what that is. Fermin Lopez did not flop. It was just a collection of bodies. Rudiger is double his size, so not a penalty, but Fermin Lopez was not diving at all. I don't want to hear that. Now, the game did fall asleep a little bit there in the second half, I felt like, and Araujo did try to wake up Lunin. He played well, that being Araujo with the ball at his feet today, playing long to Lewandowski with Lunin off his line, but the Polish striker never got his feet right, couldn't get it on frame. 64th minute then, off goes Lewandowski and Rafinha for Ferran Torres and João Felix, and one of these subs wound up being really good, and the other one wound up being a player on loan. 67th minute, after a shout by the Bernabeu for a handball on Concede, which obviously not a handball in any way, just hit his chest. The other way, Ferran Torres was probably offside. He does go wide anyway, but because he would have been offside, I guess the silver lining here is that Ferran Torres showing that he was getting involved. 69th minute, Ferran Torres more involvement. Cancelo driving forward, Torres switching play to Lamine Yamal and kept his run going to the near post. Good movement by Torres, and that created a bit of chaos. Fermin Lopez and Torres both onside then on the cross from Lamine Yamal. Lunin doesn't get a good enough punch, and Fermin Lopez gets the rebound. Another El Clásico goal for Fermin Lopez to add to his ledger, this time an official game. And then after Fermin Lopez scored, I immediately turned the game off and began to write this, celebrating the 3 points. Great job, Barcelona. They did it. But, oh wait, what's that? All right, we got to do the 5th headline. Headline 5, only a win would do. Unfortunately for Barcelona, they had to win. Even a draw wasn't going to work. But those 3 points, when they were up 2-1 in the 69th minute, looked pretty good. But it wasn't even 5 minutes, the 73rd, the 2-2. Awful defending by Barcelona. Cancelo in particular, awful at the back post. And Lucas Vázquez beats him to the punch. Goes out wide to Vini Jr., the cross gets off, and goodness Cancelo. This might be the week that will stop Barca from bringing him back. If you've been listening to the podcast, you know that how I feel about Cancelo and his loan and how I feel about João Felix and his loan are 2 different conversations. I think it's a lot harder to want to bring João Felix back. But after this kind of week from Cancelo, if you're not going to play him at the left wing, because that's what Barcelona also need, they really do need a true left winger. So if you're not going to play him on the left wing, I think you still need to figure out, is it Balde at left back? Are you going to bring in another left back? Because Cancelo at left back is not a long-term answer for you in any way. Against the bottom half of the Liga table, Cancelo was a good enough left back, but then once you get into Europe and once you face off against Real Madrid and some of the best that La Liga even has to offer, Cancelo is not a good enough defensive left back, at least, because he's also playing on the opposite side. So you're not doing a player who's not naturally a defender anyway any favors by playing him on the opposite side, but that's what Barcelona was stuck with once they had Balde go down, and Alonso just has not been good enough. He's also been injured for most of this season, but that's the excuse I've had to continue to make now for multiple seasons. As Barcelona have their financial issues, 1 or 2 or 3 injuries over the course of a season, it shows your lack of depth, and it shows the limited options you have. That's why Cancelo's been playing left back for all these weeks. So I don't know about Cancelo's future, but I know Lucas Vázquez scored his first goal at the Santiago Bernabeu since the 2nd of April, 2023. A big game player against Barcelona, unfortunately. I wish that Barcelona had Sergio Roberto to do things like that. He had his moments, but Lucas Vázquez, who's just about the same kind of caliber player, he's had too many El Clásico moments for me to stomach. Lamine Yamal fouled again in the 77th minute. Real Madrid get the blocks in, and then João Felix let a cross go. Then the other way, Vini Jr. gets in transition, and Ter Stegen protects that near post, though, keeping this 2-2. Good job by Ter Stegen to keep his team in it. Modric brought down João Felix in the 83rd. Should have been a second yellow, but obviously he wouldn't have done it if he already had one, which I already talked about. 88th minute, Real Madrid offside on a delivery. Militao offside. Then Josuelo missed it anyway, so Barcelona do survive in that moment, but 91st minute, 3-2, Bellingham wins it. He hadn't scored in months. It had been since February since he last scored. Lucas Vázquez out wide. Josuelo going near post, dummies it through, maybe on purpose, maybe not. Took Araujo with him. And then Bellingham at the back post leaves no doubt. I'm not sure exactly what the content plan is going to be for this week. So, of course, if you don't want to miss anything, Patreon, these shows are up there without the ads. And then subscribing on YouTube, that's the way you don't miss anything. I am going to start to do some transfer stuff because all you need to know is that 11 points down in the Liga standings, that means the offseason is pretty much already upon us. And I would love it if everybody just didn't sign off for 3 or 4 months. So I'm going to have some transfer stuff already. And I know Barcelona doesn't have too much to spend, but they might make some things work, especially with some kind of big sale. So I have been unfortunately talking about that big sale and who that could be, but it could mean that they could find some kind of good deal out there. Who knows what they have cooking, maybe a loan with something to buy if the numbers all work. So I'm going to be looking at the transfer stuff in the coming weeks, as well as the Barca Femení, who, you want to talk about shocking results, they fell 1-0 in the first leg of the semifinal to Chelsea, the first time Chelsea had ever beaten the Barca Femení, and that happened yesterday. So a bit heartbroken about that one yesterday, and then El Clásico today, PSG. There are good weeks to be a Barcelona fan, and there are bad weeks. This has been an awful week to be a Kool-Aid, but I respect you for sticking with me. As always, until next time, win or lose, as I always say, Forza Barca.